morning, everybody. So I grew up in a religious household. My parents, when people say you need Jesus, I literally grew up hearing you need Jesus from my mom. Even up to this day, she's always, you need to go to church and you need to be faithful and you need to do this and that. So for me, I think that the quote, the blind who lead the blind will both fall into a ditch is very true. And that comes from the Bible. And I think that that can be said both in environments of social, environments, whether it be with friends, classmates, co-workers, or it could also be said even, like my mom in a church setting or if you are religious. And I want to explain that by, first of all, with my friends, I grew up a lot, with different friends because I moved schools a lot. I went to, I think, maybe 7 different schools throughout my life, whether it be elementary or middle school or high school, and then college. I've been to about 3 now, trying to do my general ed. So, and I always found that every time I move, I'm surrounded by different people, and those people change drastically every time. And even for my brother also, my mom always told him, the people you hang out with are the people that you're going to resemble, so she always says in Spanish, there's a saying that she says a lot, that honey sticks to honey. So, the more you're around that person or those individuals, the more you're going to resemble them and the more you're going to be like them. So I think that goes to say, it does really affect the way that you are as a person, and maybe your personality changes or your characteristics or how you see things. And also in a church environment, for me, my mom always told me, you can't expect something to change if you keep a habit going, so like developing a habit, which once you develop a habit, you can't change that. And she always told me, if you want your life to change around and you want to do good in school, just pray or do this. And she said, you're not going to see a change, over time. You can't go and you can't say, what, if you're in class, you can't be like, I'm going to pass this test, but you're going to go and you're going to study with the people who have F's in the class. That's not going to happen. If you have an F and you go and you're like, oh, let's study together, but that person has an F and they have no idea what they're doing, neither of you are going to be able to go in that day and be like, I know the quadratic equation and I'm going to solve this and I'm going to get an A. So I think that goes to show that it does resemble that a lot. When you have people that you follow, or whether maybe it's someone you look up to, like a YouTuber. I know my little sister is like crazy in love with YouTubers, and she looks up to them, and I'm like, well, what do you see in that person, And it's like, but it's true, if you follow someone, then they start to become like that. Now I go home and visit my mom, she's like, oh my God, Black, and she shows me, videos of grown men going into Walmart and reporting weird things they see in Walmart, and I'm like, that's weird, not the fact that there's weird people in Walmart, but the fact that someone, wakes up and they're like, I'm gonna go to Walmart today and report people because they're weird, like, you're weird too, So, and my little sister's like that. She was like, I was at Walmart the other day and you won't believe it. There was a little girl scratching her butt and she was touching all the toys, and I'm like, I wouldn't have even paid it. I would have gone in and I would have grabbed what I needed and I would have gone home. So, and it does, I see it in my little sister, I see it in my mom, my mom when she met my dad wasn't religious at all, but I think as their love grew and once they became married and stuff, now he's religious and he goes to church every Sunday and he's like, oh, I have to make sure that all the men are ready for our Thanksgiving dinner or whatever, So I think in my life I have seen that that is true, if you follow an example, and that example is gonna, be a representation of you also, and you will become either like that person or that group of people, or your life will change based on the environment that you're surrounded by. Thank you.
Well, I like the personal story at the beginning, and the idea that the family has religious faith, and that's a big deal. And then you kind of transition to what the quote is, and that's okay. And then I'm not sure which way you're going. Are we talking about the family being religious, or are we going to use the quote? And I wasn't clear where you were going to end up, and I'm still not clear which way you went on that. But you got going, and you kept going there. Once you get that momentum going, it seems like you just follow through on it, regardless of what the content's going to be, which is not a bad thing because energy level stays up a little bit. And you found lots of things to talk about. You had good examples to mention and some stories to tell. So the content I thought was reasonable. I'm not, like I said, I'm not quite clear what point ultimately you were trying to make, but you did find something to talk about that was interesting to listen to. The presentation things, there are a lot of things that you're doing very well. I think your voice projects well. There's good variety in your voice. Your facial expressions, you're very animated. There are some things that you want to watch out for. You rush a little bit, and I think that's, like we were talking about before, sometimes you get that energy going and you've got momentum, and that's a good thing. But sometimes you need to slow down and remember, what's the point that I'm trying to make here? And I kind of got the feeling that, that's one of the things that you needed to do during the presentation. Your eye contact, it's very solid with that part of the room. The people on this side of the room, I don't know that I think you glanced in their direction once or twice. Now maybe it's because they're over there and, they're guys and who knows what's going on there, But they need to be included in the process too. But I can see that the room is more heavily weighted over here. You got to reach out a little bit. Reach out with your eyes and kind of connect with people a little bit more. And so that was something that was a little bit noticeable. It happened only a little bit at the beginning of the speech. You were much better later in the speech. The leg crossing thing that I've mentioned to a couple of people before. It's not a big deal. It's not like you stood there with your legs crossed. I think you just kind of crossed your legs as you were moving over to one side. But at one point it did look a little bit awkward. There's no summary at the end of the speech, so it does feel a little bit more abrupt than you probably want it to be at the end. All right. Thank you.